Our hearts break today as a community at 10:54 a.m. We received a 911 call from a clinic in the 700 block Crossroads Campus Drive. The report was that shots had been fired. Officers responded. Those officers immediately were given information that the shooter that there were several people injured within the clinic. Officers responding located multiple victims, and also the shooter, a 67-year-old male who was taken into custody, and those officers then immediately began to render aid to the injured. There is no information at this point that leads us to believe that there is any nexus with any type of domestic terrorism. We are very familiar with the suspect, and I would just like to say I'm very proud of the men and women of law enforcement that responded to assist with this incident and put themselves in harm's way. I want to thank the multiple agencies. Representatives are here with us. Everyone came together, and I just want to say thank you. And again, our heart breaks as a community. This is a day that no community would want to go through. We would not, especially those staff that were there. Of course, those that were injured, the families of those that were injured. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. And again, I just want to thank everyone that has responded to assist us. And at this point, I'm going to ask the Wright County Sheriff Sean Derringer talk about his agency's part in this investigation.
Thank you, Chief. And I would like to echo Chief Budke's words. It's heartbreaking dealing with, we're 3 or 4 hours after the initial call for this incident, and I think we're still a little bit surprised. We never hoped for something like this to happen in our backyard, and our hearts and sympathies and certainly our prayers go out to the entire city of Buffalo and the entire Wright County area. As Mayor Lockemeyer alluded to, we're family here, and we don't want this to happen to our neighbors and our friends. So I will identify the suspect as Gregory Paul Ulrich, L-U-R-I-C-H. He's 67 years old. He is from Buffalo. We have had several calls for service regarding Mr. Ulrich dating back to 2003, both the Buffalo Police Department and the Wright County Sheriff's Office. So he's no stranger to law enforcement. Certainly I would go back to Chief Budke, as we all respond to a call like this, right? Buffalo Police Department doesn't have to put an all call out for assistance. We self-dispatch to that, and upon our arrival, we also located several victims in this. It's a horrible looking scene, and our staff immediately began rendering aid to those victims. Once all the victims were removed from the premises, my team did a cursory secondary search of the building, made sure that no one else was in it. During the secondary search, we also found a suspicious package in the corner of the lobby. So we have contacted the Minneapolis Bomb Squad, and they are on scene right now helping us with that. Once that was taken care of, and once that was found, we evacuated our team members out of there in coordination with the Buffalo Police Department, my office. Quickly became apparent that we could probably use some help. We had several witnesses, obviously several victims. They're taken to several different locations. And so we've called in some detectives. Thank you, Sheriff Dave Hutchinson from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. He sent a team of detectives to my office, north of Buffalo, to help with those victim statements and the witness statements, so appreciate that. Also, out of an abundance of caution early on in this investigation, we did receive information that Mr. Ulrich was staying most recently at the Super 8 Motel here in Buffalo. We did send a team from my office over there to evacuate the Super 8 Motel. We did find additional suspicious devices at the Super 8 Motel. It's been evacuated. We cleared the area. Just minutes before coming back here, I got a call update. We have search warrants are in hand. We are going to continue to work with the Buffalo Police Department, certainly our state and local partners, along with our federal partners, depending on where this investigation, we are certainly in the infancy of this investigation, but we certainly don't want to leave any stone unturned, and we want to make sure that we're being prudent throughout this entire investigation. We do believe that Mr. Ulrich did act alone, so a sigh of relief maybe for us in the law enforcement community and our community as a whole. We're not looking for any additional suspects. We believe that he acted alone, and so we've got time on our side. We can all gather the information once these scenes are secured, and we'll rely on the ATF and the Minneapolis Bomb Squad to tell us when those scenes are secure. We can start the tedious process of making sure that we document to the best and fullest of our ability. So, again, I would echo the comments from Chief Pledke, that our heart goes out to this entire community. It's we in the law enforcement community don't wish this upon anyone, and it's with a heartfelt, prayerful message to the community that we will do everything that we can to bring this to a closure. I'd also like to thank our other local, state, and federal partners that have showed up. I've had many conversations with several of our surrounding police chiefs and sheriffs, and the help that's being offered is exponential, and certainly it means a lot to have those relationships that developed at a time like this when we need it the most. So we will continue to update to the best of our ability, as this investigation is certainly in its infancy, and we'll continue to gather information certainly as the days and weeks progress. So we'll continue to update to the best of our ability. So thank you all for being here and taking part of this. I would like to turn it over actually to the Buffalo Hospital President, Kelly Spratt.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Spratt, S-P-R-A-T-T, and I am the president of for Allina Health Buffalo Hospital. Let me just start by saying our prayers and our thoughts are with our staff and with the patients that we serve out here in this greater community and for the greater community as a whole. This obviously is a very challenging day for us out here and across the Allina Health family. And I want to emphasize family. I know the sheriff and the police chief just mentioned that is the way we look at this overarching community. So our hearts break again for the family and the patients that trust us with their care and for the greater community. We had a total of 5 patients that were transported from the clinic, 4 of which went to North Memorial. It was the ultimate destination, 1 to Hennepin County Medical Center. 2 of them were initially transported to Buffalo Hospital. The other 3 left directly from the scene to those metro hospitals, being their level 1 trauma center. At this point, I do not have the most up-to-date information on the patient's conditions. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to them and their families and to our staff across the Allina Health system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. My name is Terry Lockemeyer, last name spelled L-A-C-H-E-R-M-E-I-E-R, and I'm the mayor of the city of Buffalo. And this is our family. These people were working together to make sure our community feels safe right now, that our community in Allina feels safe. Our hearts and prayers go out to the staff and the victims. And I just want to say, you guys, we're going to make it through this. It's going to be difficult. This doesn't happen in Buffalo, Minnesota, right? But we got to be there for these people that are needing us. We got to reach out, and in this time of COVID, where you can't physically hug someone, we need to reach out by phone and make sure everybody's okay, because it's a stressful time. So reach out, check on people, make sure they're okay, because in the bottom line, it's mental health that we're suffering from, and we have to make sure we're taking care of those people who are in need of our help. I want to thank everyone for being here. Again, my hearts and prayers go out to our community as well as the victims and the staff at Alina. I thank you all for coming, and I'm going to open it up to questions at this time.
When you
Was
say
there
the
any-
5 patients that were taken to the hospital, I guess Kelly addressed that, 5 patients that were taken to the hospital, were they patients at the clinic, or were they nurses as staff at Alina?
Yeah, at this point, because this is an active investigation, we're just not prepared to clarify that at this point in time. So there was 5 patients. 5 were transported ultimately to 4 to North Memorial and 1 to Anaheim.
But at this time, no one has passed away.
Again, at this point in time, I'm not prepared and don't have the latest conditions on the report.
Did the shooter say anything before shooting his weapon?
I'm gonna turn that over to law enforcement here.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did the shooter say anything, speak anything to people in the clinic before opening fire?
Again, it's very early in the investigation. There's a lot of information to be sifted through. I don't know at this point if any comments directly made by the shooter to anyone in the clinic.
Can you say what his motive is? Can you speak to that at all? It's not a nexus of domestic terrorism. What is it?
The history that we have as a partner with this individual makes it most likely that this incident was targeted at that facility or at someone within that facility. We're working now, as it has been said, to make sure that we throw a net over anything remaining. We want to retrace his last hours and determine where he was. But at this point, because of the contact that we have had with him and his familiarity and a history of conflict, that's where we base the belief that this wasn't isolated and only directed at that facility or people within that facility.
Chief, can you
Chief,
talk a little
was
bit
the
more
doctor-
about, can you talk a little bit more about that, Chief? It's Jessica Miles with Channel 5. Because it sounds like the other clinic in town too was familiar with this guy, and they had a mug of him, and they knew who he was.
Correct. He has lived in this community for quite a long time and has had contact with healthcare within the community during that time. None of the information that we have, again, it's early on in the investigation, but none of the information that we have from our past contact with him would indicate that he was unhappy with or would direct his anger at anyone other than people within the facilities where he had been treated or where they had attempted to give treatment.
Was there a doctor in particular that he was focusing on, that he went in there to?
Again, at this point, it's early on in the investigation, and so that's not something we're.
Were there any clip bombs or explosive devices detonated? Because the way those windows went out, it doesn't necessarily look like gunshots.
Again, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that when we give you information, it's accurate. In a scene like that, as soon as we rendered aid and were able to make sure that there was no one else in that scene that needed our help, we backed out, evacuated the area as best we could. So again, that answer is one that we would hope to answer. That question is one that we would hope to answer in the coming days, but it's too early to tell.
How many shots were fired?
I have no idea.
Can you just address the explosion or whatever you're looking into? Because throughout the day, we've talked about a shooting and then a half an hour later, an explosion. So if it's wrong, can you say that that's wrong?
I would say that that's wrong. I know that the call came out at 11:54.
10:54.
I'm sorry, 10:54, sorry. And when I talk about an evacuation where law enforcement had at that point backed out, I don't have a specific time, but I know that no more than an hour had passed.
And there was no explosion. inside that building?
There may have been prior to our being able to go inside and evacuate the building.
But you can't confirm it right now until they're done looking through it.
Can you
Are
talk
you
a
able
little
to
bit
say how
about
many-
the people in the facility, in the clinic? Were they running out when this was happening? Were they sheltering in place? Were they hiding? What was the staff and patients doing inside there, do you know?
Yeah, so there is a lot that's unknown. All of the people in the building that we were able to speak with, we have spoken with, but that information again has to be part of the total investigation. You know, in terms of people running out or what the reaction was, I know that Alina has a very comprehensive training response plan for things like this as a facility, and so I would guess, and it would be a guess, that there was a combination of responses by people, whether they were sheltering in place or trying to exit the building.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Can you talk a little bit about those other explosives that were found or those suspicious devices that were found at the motel? Were those, do you know what the intended target of those were? Do you know?
Yeah, and we don't know or can't confirm what those devices were, or really anything about what the intention behind those devices might have been until we're able to complete the investigation.
Were they similar to the one that was found at the clinic?
I'm sorry,
Were they similar in nature to the device that was found at
I'm
the
sorry, I
clinic?
don't know that.
Are you able to say more about the previous encounters with him and this kind of tie-in with healthcare workers going back to 2003? How many times? What were the kind of demeanor, I guess, of those encounters?
I don't have specifics as far as the number of contacts, negative contacts or positive contacts that he would have had with healthcare workers. All I can say is that it's a history that spans several years, and there certainly is a history of him being unhappy with healthcare, with the healthcare that he received. There's also, within that history, nothing to indicate that he would have been in the situation that we are at today.
Two questions left.
John, hold on a minute. Chief, does he have a criminal record, number one, and then can you tell us a little bit more about him? Does he have a job in town? Does he have?
Again, we're early on in the investigation, and I don't want to speak about where he
Well,
might.
those wouldn't be, I'm sorry, those wouldn't be, I mean, his criminal record, that's.
He answered your question.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah.
said that it
Are
was
you
a
able to say,
targeted
Chief,
thing
who
toward
actually
Alina.
made the
Can
arrest?
you confirm or not, is this connected to the Alina CEO's daughter being found dead in Iowa?
There would be nothing to indicate that.
Can you say who actually made the arrest of the suspect at the clinic?
I'm sorry.
Was the suspect arrested at the clinic?
Correct.
And did he make a 911? Did he also make a 911 call?
I don't know that at this time.
Can you give us details on the weapons you found?
No,
One gun, more than one gun, long gun?
not prepared to share that.
Okay, the sheriff has something that he would like to add.
Apparently I was speaking a little quick when I was spelling the suspect's last name, but it's Gregory Paul Ulrich, U as in Union, L-R-I-C-H. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Spratt, does the clinic give out vaccinations, and could this have anything to do with vaccinations?
Brian Lutz, Wright County Attorney. I expect that the defendant will appear in court Thursday morning at 10:30. Prior to that, I will file a detailed complaint that spells out all of the details that are not yet available due to the early stages of this investigation. Thank you all for coming.